But watching it on television was one thing. To be there at the game and see how physical that game was, it was something else. I mean, it was a heavyweight slugfest in the middle of the ring, and Alabama did not come out unscathed. Barrett Jones, that ankle is bothering him. He didn't practice yesterday. You saw Drake Kirkpatrick get slung down by the Honey Badger. He's got a concussion. Brad Smelly, an undiagnosed or undisclosed injury, I should say. And also Marquise Mays, he's still dealing with an ankle as well. So Alabama, you know, these guys are day to day, and their status for Mississippi State is up in the air.
Well, you know, also, you might mention that Steen missed. You know, McCullough started in his spot, and again, I'm not sure if he's fully recovered or not. And also Lacey still has the turf toe that he, you know, probably slowed him down a little bit.
Although, to say this about McCullough, I'm not sure Alabama misses a beat when he's at right guard.
Oh,
the problem
absolutely.
is if Barrett Jones can't go, then McCullough's probably got to go to left tackle because Quanjo's out.
That's right.
So injuries like they did late last year beginning to creep up on the Tide. All right, let's talk about Mississippi State, Rodney. This is a football program that had incredibly high expectations going into the season, due in large part to their head coach going out on the speaking circuit and saying, hey, we expect to compete for the SEC West Division Championship. Then right out of the blocks, they go to Auburn, a game they could have won. And as always, they didn't win it. It's been downhill since then. The only West Division team that he has beaten in 3 seasons now in Starkville is Ole Miss. And that's not saying a lot, but they do see Alabama as an opportunity to make a statement. It is a game that I would argue with you, having spent some time in that state, they put it right up there with Ole Miss as far as importance to them, their fans, and everybody that follows Mississippi State football.
No question about it, Gary. Huge game. They always, you know, look at it that way. And certainly, you know, when you look at this game, you know, in a way, you know, you have to think that Mississippi State's breathing, smelling some blood over there. And they, you know, I don't know, it's always kind of a difficult atmosphere to play in with those cowbells. It's a night game. There's something about it over there, that atmosphere, that every time Alabama goes, it's difficult. And, you know, their players are certainly very emotional. Some of those guys, like Chad Bumpus, as you see there, #1 wide receiver, was recruited by Alabama. So, you know, again, I think that I really believe that this game could be much more difficult than some Alabama fans want to believe.
Well, you know, one thing about Mississippi State, and we've said this every year, they're a physical football team.
Yep.
And Alabama coming off a physical game with some guys banged up, you know, it's important to get out to a good start over there, I think. If Mississippi State gets a lead and gets some confidence, it could be a troublesome game.
Oh, that's no question about it. You know, they're a little disappointed right now. They're 5-4 overall, 1-4 in the SEC, and this is certainly a game that could, you know, kind of catapult them a little bit. And I think Dan Mullen's an excellent coach. I think he will have his team ready. He has a good staff. And again, Gary, you mentioned what they do. Alabama will be facing, once again, 2 quarterbacks. Tyler Russell is a passer. Chris Relf is more of maybe a Jordan Jefferson type. So, you know, again, it's going to be difficult for Alabama's defense, and at the same time, Alabama's offense needs to get on track. And you look at Mississippi State's defense, they've got some talented guys. You're talking about up front, Fletcher Cox, Josh Boyd, you know, to name a couple of guys. Caleb Ewells is a redshirt freshman defensive end that Alabama really recruited hard, just as they did Fletcher Cox. So, again, they're a talented team. Dan Mullen will certainly have them ready. They won't be intimidated.
And you know, Rodney, I'm going to be interested to watch how Alabama reacts. You remember in 2008, they went 12 games undefeated, lost a heartbreaker to Florida in the SEC Championship game, got blown out against Utah in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
2009, didn't lose a game last year, lost to South Carolina. They looked unbeatable going into that game, wound up losing twice more. How will they react coming off a loss? Will we see the Alabama team that we saw prior to LSU, or will we see a team that limps into the postseason? It's going to be interesting to see what Bama does. Well, the University of Missouri was officially welcomed to the SEC by Commissioner Mike Slive and other dignitaries. And Rodney, they're the 14th team. You know, they went back and forth. It always looked like it might be Missouri. Now it's official. Missouri will play in the East, A&M in the West. You'll have 2 7-team divisions. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, again, I think I like, you know, if they're going to expand, I'm not opposed to either school. Missouri, I think, certainly has a strong basketball program. They have a good football program. Gary Pinkel's done a great job there. You look at Texas A&M, and you know, I think they're obviously, Sherman's doing a good job. They've gotten better every year. They're, you know, I think that I do think that a lot of people don't know, they have a natural rival in the SEC with LSU. Those 2 teams used to play every year. I mean, they played 1 year in Baton Rouge, 1 year in College Station for years. And again, that was a natural rival. So, again, I think that I like both of those schools myself.
Yeah, I do too. And even though they're in different divisions, Missouri and Arkansas are border states.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something about Missouri. You mentioned their basketball program. They've got an incredible brand new arena, but they've also got great football facilities there. I mean, this is a team that will serve itself well in the SEC, and you do open up the St. Louis television market along with the Kansas City market. That's about 5 million people total there, I think, 3 million in St. Louis and 2 million in Kansas City. All right, let's move on and get to the phones. We've got some callers that are lined up waiting to talk with us, and one of our favorites is Joseph right here in Tuscaloosa. Joseph, what's up?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, hey, what's happening?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Okay, peep this out now. I'm a little concerned about Alabama right now because I remember a while back when Nick Saban first got here. Now, we lost to LSU 41-34 and went to the same Starkville, Mississippi, and went unfocused. Now, we lost 16-10. And Mississippi State gives up for games like this.
No doubt, Joseph. I think that's what we've been talking about. A portion of this program is it is a concern. There's no doubt about it. How Alabama handles this game, I think, will determine the outcome. If Alabama's ready to play, they're better, Joseph. That's clear. I mean, nobody's going to sit here and argue that Mississippi State is good as Alabama. But that's the great thing about college football. The best team does not always win.
Well,
and Alabama does need to be.
Yeah, and the game he's talking about was Nick Saban's first year in 2007. Let me say this, Joseph, and I agree with what you're saying. Certainly, there's merit to that. But, you know, Nick Saban's in his 5th year. All these guys are his players. You've got a lot of experienced players out there defensively, also on the offensive line. So you've got guys that have been around a while, and I certainly think that Alabama's in a better position now to rebound than maybe they were in 2007. And, again, this team's a lot better than the 2007 team. There's no question about that. So obviously that means a lot.
Plus, we'll find out what they're made of. They've talked about all year how this team's got more leadership than last year. This team has rallied around each other, rallied around the tornado travesty, tornado tragedy that happened back in April. Now they'll be tested. For the first time, they're dealing with some adversity this season. We're going to see what they're made of.
And you know, Gary, they've still got a lot in front of them. I mean, they're number 3 in the BCS. There's still an opportunity to possibly have a rematch with LSU. So they've got a lot of things that should motivate them.
All right, we got some more callers on the line. We'll get to you when we come back. Stay with us. Back with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Tighter Insider TV continues. Let's go back to the phones and talk with BT. BT, how you doing, buddy? Doing well. What's on your mind, BT?
Of the Alabama basketball team.
All right, BT. Okay, BT, yeah. Thanks, BT. Thought we might have lost you there for a second. Expectations for the basketball team, I've said it before, the NCAA tournament. I think anything short of that is a disappointment. Last year, Alabama won 24 games, didn't get into the NCAA tournament, went to the finals of the NIT. That was nice. But the NCAA tournament's the goal, and if they don't make it, I think it'll be a disappointing season. That's my opinion.
Well, you had an opportunity to watch them last night. Early observations.
There are some parts there. They started 2 freshmen. Cooper and Randolph. Of course, Trevor Lacey came off the bench, so they got some young athletic talent there. JaMychal Green really looks like he's improved. He's a senior. Looks like he's going to be a leader. I think some pieces are there, but they're going to need to come together. I mean, it was an exhibition game, but UAH, the Chargers out of Huntsville, gave them all they wanted last night. Alabama won 67-60. They tip it off for real on Friday night against North Florida. We'll have that game for you live on WVUA at 7 o'clock Friday night. Okay, let's take an email question. From Bama Jack in Northport, did Coach Saban try the long field goals due to the strength of both defenses because any points on the board would lead to a win? Yeah, he wanted to get points when he was down there those times. There's no doubt about that, Bama Jack, and I think that was a factor in him sending the kickers out there. Of course, because points were so precious, you know, the thought of backing LSU up or maybe going for it on 4th down, trying to get a touchdown. I guess when something doesn't work, you always second guess it. But, you know, he did what he did.
Yeah, and again, we knew that points would be at a premium and a field goal could decide the game, which it did. And, you know, you look at it, and we kind of went over the scenarios earlier, why, you know, Alabama did not punt the ball and why they decided to go for field goals. So, again, I think the bottom line is you saw an opportunity to get some points and wanted to try to get them. And, you know, taking everything into consideration, I'm not sure it was necessarily a bad decision.
And in hindsight, you could question the play calling. When they got down there on 1st down after running the ball a lot, they would go, they tried to reverse. They tried the Wildcat pass, which certainly looked like a good play, but it didn't work. They tried, you know, throwing the ball and took some sacks, had some penalties. Negative yardage killed them in those situations. Well, coming up, as we've talked about ad nauseum, the Tide took its first loss this past Saturday, and so did Rodney and I. We picked Alabama. We'll make our predictions for the Mississippi State game next. We're back on Titv. We knew it would be a tough game, but Rodney, both you and I thought Alabama would beat LSU at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They did not, so they're coming off a loss, and so are we. But time for us to bounce back too. Alabama, Mississippi State. How do you see it?
And it's going to be interesting to see if Alabama can go over to Starkville, Gary, and bounce back. But again, Alabama is the more talented team. I talked earlier about the experience on Alabama's defensive side. They still have a lot of motivation. Again, I think Mississippi State, Gary, will come out, possibly play their best game of the year. I know Dan Mullen will have them ready. The crowd will be fired up. Night game, cowbells, all those things. But I don't think they're enough. Alabama 23-9.
Well, I'm right there with you. I'm going to say something about Alabama's defense. As good as they've been this year, I thought they played their best game against LSU. They gave up 6 points, not 9, because 3 of that came in overtime. They gave up 6 points during regulation. 3 of that came after A.J. McCarron pick gave LSU a first down on the 12-yard line. Another time LSU had a first down at the 2, they had to kick a field goal. Alabama's defense is not going to let Mississippi State win this football game. I'm going to be interested to see how the offense responds after what I thought was a subpar performance against LSU. Even though LSU's defense is terrific, Alabama had opportunities. They moved the football. They didn't cash them in. Bama's defense is never going to let down. They're going to win this game. Alabama will 28-6 because of that Alabama defense. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We'll find out on Saturday night if we're right. Right now, it's dinner time on a Tuesday night. We're headed to the Pottery Grill in Northport. Come by and join us about 7:15. If you missed any of the show, you can find it at WVUATV.com. Well, for Rodney Orr and the rest of our TITV crew, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.